Live from London, this is BBC News. With less than 24 hours to go until the coronation, King Charles make a surprise visit to fans camping out on the Mall with the Prince and Princess of Wales.
Are you feeling okay?
I feel wonderful.
This is Kate talking to my ear. Do. Well, come and say hi to Yuli when you're back over here, but I hope you get better soon.
The Wagner mercenary group posts a social media video of its leader berating Russia for not sending the force enough ammunition. Serbia's president pledges an almost complete disarming of the country after the second mass shooting there in 48 hours. Welcome to the programme. I'm Yalda Hakim. We start here in London, where excitement is building ahead of the coronation of King Charles tomorrow. It's been a day of rehearsals and diplomatic duties for the King. Earlier, he was joined by the Prince and Princess of Wales for a walkabout on the Mall, where he met well-wishers from all over the world. Thousands of people have come to London for the big day, and tens of millions are expected to watch the ceremony. And here's some of King Charles's walkabout a little earlier. Have a look.
You came from America.
Yeah, I came here from Bangkok.
Yes.
No, no.
Yes.
Is this your... I came here from Bangkok. That's great.
Very brave.
Hi, sir. How are you? It's a pleasure to meet you.
Hello, Your Royal Highness. Thank you very much. Lovely. Good luck to you tomorrow. Lovely. I hope to see you. Hi.
From Colombia. From Colombia. Colombia.
Very happy memory.
God save the king.
God save the king. God save the king. God save the king.
God save the king.
You're looking amazing. We love you. Good luck tomorrow. Good luck.
Beautiful. Oh,
We've got champagne too.
Yes, thank you so much.
You can see King Charles, there on the Mall with those well-wishers ahead of the coronation tomorrow. And he's been meeting people from all over the world. A little earlier, one woman told him that she had come all the way from Jamaica. He was thrilled to hear that. A lot of people from the United States as well. Some of these crowds have been waiting here and camped out for days on end. And really, London and Windsor have been preparing for parades, crowds, street parties to mark the first coronation in 70 years. Large crowds of these royal fans have been flocking to central London for the occasion. Some people camping overnight for days on end. There have been road closures all over London and a lot of travel disruptions because of those road closures, but that hasn't prevented many of these well-wishers to come and meet the King. Let's just have a listen in again.
Oh my God.
Yes, they're right. They're right.
Just for you. Just for you.
Good luck, Charles, for tomorrow. Good luck. Good luck for tomorrow.
Best of luck for you tomorrow.
You're seeing King Charles there meeting well-wishers. Well, let's just have a listen in to some of what Prince William's walkabout looked like and what he had to say.
Leicester. Leave it low. Leave it low.
Thank you. I'm praying a bit of sunshine stays out. Keep you all dry. You guys are...
enjoy it. It's a family day.
Well, it's an interesting day, isn't it, tomorrow? It's going to be full of...
the children.
Are you guys camping?
We're going to sleep here on
Really? On chairs?
We'll be here when you go by tomorrow.
Well, I remember when I was in here for my wedding, I could hear you all singing at the time. So I'm sure you'll all keep each other going tonight.
You see the Canadian flag, then you get us away.
Well, that's it. I'll mark where you guys are. Have a nice evening, guys. Oh, what did you do to your arm? Oh no, not recently, I hope.
My 40th birthday party festival.
Was it? Clearly a good party.
It was.
Yeah. There's a lot of people here who could sign your cast for you.
Yeah. Got a pen?
Get some messages. I haven't got one on me, annoyingly. There's a lot of people to sign it.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good luck
Very nice to meet you. Thank you. Phoenix. I haven't had anyone from Phoenix yet. I've I've done pretty much all the states. So you're from Phoenix?
Yes, I am. It's nice and
When did you come over?
I'm going to be here for 5 nights total, and this is my 3rd night.
Have you camped out here?
Yeah, I'm going to be here tonight. Yes, I am.
Well done you. You're the first Sicilians I've met. That's good. Yeah. Have you been to this before? It's the first time?
No, I've been here for 7 years.
Oh, you?
Yeah, but it's the first time.
Are you camping outside? Well done, guys. I'm very impressed. This is it. There's going to be a lot of partying going on, I think. Thank you, sir. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. Australia, nice to see you guys. Hello.
That was Prince William there. Well, during the walkabout, our cameras were able to get this exchange with the Princess of Wales on how the family's doing with hours to go before the coronation. Have a listen.
Really well, thank you.
Very excited.
Excited, a bit nervous, obviously with a big day ahead, but no, can't wait actually.
And what about you and William?
Yeah, all good. Hopefully a bit like sort of Swan, sort of relatively calm on the outside and sort of paddly on the inside.
And what about King Charles? Is he?
I'm sure looking forward to it as well. So it's nice to be out here and saying hello to everyone who's obviously stayed out for so long, and we'll be overnight. Some people are staying overnight. Are you staying out overnight?
No, part of the press,
Yeah.
BBC.
Are you out overnight?
We're here every day.
Yeah.
So it's
going to be a long.
Hopefully it'll be dry.
Are you tired?
A bit.
Yeah, I bet,
Not
because
so
it's long
much.
hours for everybody.
It is.
Isn't
It is. It is.
But no, it's a really great moment. It's
So
a
have you
moment
got
of
an early
celebration as well.
Have you got an early start tomorrow?
Yes,
Very
an
early.
early start, but I think everyone has. Very nice
Nice
to
to
see you.
see you.
Hello.
That was the Princess of Wales, and as we've said, the King and the Prince and Princess of Wales have been greeting well-wishers on the Mall in London ahead of tomorrow's coronation. And we, of course, have continued our coverage. You can also get much of our coverage on our website. King Charles is due to welcome international dignitaries in Buckingham Palace. In fact, I believe that's what he's currently doing. Let's go and speak with our correspondent down at Buckingham Palace, Robin Branton. Robin, the excitement truly is building up now.
Yeah, and I suppose what's going on inside the palace at the moment is, for all intents and purposes, a very formal party. The royal sovereign is flying, so we know that the king is in residence, and there is a gathering of some 1,000 leaders or spouses of leaders in there tonight. They will be in the Abbey tomorrow, so it's almost, I suppose, for want of a better phrase, the creme de la creme. It's been a busy day for the king today. We are told it's a relatively early finish tonight, an early bed, so that he and those around him, the closest members of his family, are all ready for tomorrow's events. That walkabout you heard elements of a little earlier. The walkabouts are always interesting, aren't they? And the King and Prince William and his wife, the Princess of Wales, Kate, have done a lot of these. The King drove down very briefly to the Mall and stepped out and met people on the right, and then crossed over to the left. It's good for him to meet members of the public, particularly those who are most dedicated, most loyal, who have come here, and some of them have camped for several nights in anticipation of tomorrow. It looks good for the cameras as well, of course. It's important to recognise that. You heard that exchange, quite an unusual exchange, I think, between the Princess of Wales and my colleague, my BBC colleague, Emily, where the Princess of Wales spoke about being nervous, she spoke about being excited, she described herself as a swan maybe, so calm above the surface but underneath, scurrying away somewhat energetically as they prepare for tomorrow. But what's going on inside at the moment, you might see some cars, limousines with police escorts going in and coming out as I'm talking, is that gathering of 1,000 leaders, or in the case of people like Dr. Jill Biden, the wife of President Joe Biden, spouses who are here to represent their countries. But that gathering tonight, then, as I said, an early finish, and then, of course, tomorrow.
Yeah, Robin, I heard Christian say a little earlier that the mood has sort of shifted today. Throughout the week, it's been quite relaxed, but you get a sense of the massive security operation that this is, given the number of dignitaries, the number of world leaders who have gathered at Buckingham Palace.
Yes, I mean, let's not forget that this is a huge gathering of lots of very important people, most of them democratically elected, some not, but they are here to represent their country at this event that they believe is significant enough, not just for the UK, but for them as well, to be here. And, you know, for want of a better phrase, these kind of gatherings are a nightmare for the police and the security services, because you've got lots of people in one place all at the same time, and anyone who may want to do harm, or of course anyone who may want to protest, knows where these people are going to be. So for the best part of a week and beyond now, we've had parts of the area around the palace, around the Abbey, which is just about a mile down there, and in Whitehall, that have been closed off to traffic. There's an increasingly heightened police presence and other members of security as well. Searches have been going on with dogs inside the media compound. When the King did a walkabout earlier, the police were definitely more heightened in terms of their vigilance. You know, I heard one exchange between a police officer, actually a member of the media, who had a bag on her back. And the police are kind of very aware and very much on the lookout for people who could be a security threat, or in their eyes, who might also pose what they regard as a threat and may wish to disrupt tomorrow's proceeding. That's not just protesters, but those who wish to disrupt tomorrow's proceedings. But look, if you go down to the Mall, there are people in tents, there are people on their chairs. You know, they want the organisers, people, to feel that they can walk about freely and have a sense of freedom around an event that, although it is very formal, is one that is meant to include tens of thousands of tourists and members of the public as well. But like I said, formalities inside there tonight, a very heavy police presence, although at the moment that lot there waiting for more important people to come out. But tomorrow, of course, there will be plenty of uniformed officers that we will see, plenty as well not in uniform, who have their contribution to make in terms of being vigilant and on the lookout for those who may pose a security threat. But also the police have made it clear, under relatively new legislation just passed and given royal assent by the King this week, those who may wish to disrupt tomorrow's events.
Robin, as you say, a real balancing act, isn't it, of making people feel like they're part of it, inclusive, a celebration, but of course keeping the security in mind as well. Thank you so much for bringing us up to date on all of that. Let's just show you some aerial shots now of central London. As Robin was saying there, on the eve of the coronation, the seriousness and scale of the security operation in the capital this weekend is becoming more visible. We heard earlier on the roof of Buckingham Palace, police spotters can be seen with high-powered binoculars. Convoys with motorcycle outriders are whisking the King and other members of the royal family between rehearsals and other events. And then, of course, they too want to meet with the well-wishers, so getting out and about, and for the security, just ensuring that they can maintain that, where they are allowing the officials to be able to get close to those well-wishers, to speak to them, but at the same time maintaining the security. The crowds gathered on the Mall have been watched by uniformed officers, and extra CCTV cameras have also been installed along the route, and police are using live automated facial recognition cameras to try to spot known suspects in the crowd. So it's not just the protesters, but as Robin was saying, that those concerns are about people who may try to disrupt the procession and the formalities. So really layers and layers of security that can be seen across central London at the moment. Aerial shots there. And I believe we can show you some shots of the Mall, where, as Robin was saying, people have been gathered for days on end, but there is now a shift on the eve of the coronation. The real seriousness and scale of the security is visible. The Met Police have said they're using layered security approach with visible officers on the streets and others working covertly and watching the crowd. And underlying the whole operation is the close intelligence cooperation with the security service MI5. So lots of security, a lot of the security you can see, a lot of the security you cannot see, because of course this is a massive operation for them. It's underway and people are beginning to gather along the route of tomorrow's procession in central London for that ceremony, Saturday's ceremony, which will be led by the Archbishop of Canterbury, and it's due to begin at 11 BST, 10 GMT in Westminster Abbey. And as we've been saying, while there are many well-wishers coming from all over the world to London, there's also concerns about those protesters, people who may disrupt or attempt to disrupt the procession. But today the King, as well as the Prince and Princess of Wales, went out on the Mall in London ahead of tomorrow's coronation, and they met with well-wishers. There was actually a wonderful moment with the Princess of Wales, who took someone's phone and spoke to a family member of that person who was there to say that she was out and about meeting well-wishers. So I don't know if we have that material, actually. It would be nice to show our viewers of the Princess of Wales. I'm told we don't have that. But as soon as we get that for you, I'd love to show you that, because it's a wonderful, warm moment of the crowds with the Princess of Wales handing her a phone, and she speaks to their family members. But you can spot their aerial shots of central London. You can see all of those well-wishers queuing up. Some people queued up since last Friday, I'm told, putting out tents, staying overnight. It's warming up. It's a nice spring evening in London, but it has also been quite cold. So a lot of people camped out there. You can see all those tents along the Mall, and it was along the Mall that the King and the Prince and Princess of Wales were greeting well-wishers ahead of the coronation tomorrow. King Charles is welcoming international dignitaries to Buckingham Palace at the moment. So Robin Brandt was telling us that there are at least 1,000 dignitaries in there right now. He met with Commonwealth leaders earlier, and now he's meeting with many international leaders today. So lots of excitement on the streets of London and many preparations inside Buckingham Palace ahead of the coronation tomorrow. Let's speak now to Afua Hagen. She is a TV and radio presenter and royal commentator who's joining us live. Afua, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, it is quite a historic, extraordinary moment when you sort of pause and think about all of this. This is the first coronation in 70 years.
Absolutely. I mean, historic maybe doesn't quite cover it like the first coronation in 70 years, like you said. And we literally are living through history at this moment. So today we have seen Kate and William and King Charles III out on that walkabout on the Mall. We've seen world leaders going round almost in a carousel behind us. You have the meeting of the Commonwealth leaders this evening, having a bit of reception, although I'm told that King Charles III won't be staying long because he has a long day ahead of him tomorrow, as do we all.
Yeah, he's sort of made that clear that he does want an early evening, doesn't he? Because we did hear from them when they were walking along the Mall, meeting with well-wishers, that this has been a long week, a tiring week, and they are going to start very early tomorrow.
Yes, they are. And as are the well-wishers on the Mall. So we've had people who are queuing up all day, and you can see the seats that are set up behind us here in Buckingham Palace, and those seats will be open about 6 to 6:30 tomorrow morning, and people will be filling those bleachers to watch the coronation on a huge screen. So yes, royal fans will have a very early morning, as will King Charles III himself, and of course Kate and William and all the pages, everybody else, and Queen Camilla, of course, everybody else that is involved in the coronation ceremony tomorrow, definitely having a very early start.
Afua, there's often a lot of debate and chatter about the popularity of the royal family, and yet when it comes to something like this, I think you know, to see people gather from all over the world, from the Commonwealth countries, and then, of course, the dignitaries that have arrived. And for people to sort of camp out along the Mall for days on end, it just gives you a sense of their popularity as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you do have people who have travelled from all over. I've been out and about speaking to people this week. You have Americans, Canadians, Australians, people from across Europe who literally have been camping out, meeting people that they have met when they camped out for the Platinum Jubilee or for the Queen's funeral, and have been here in the biblical rain that we had this morning, still queuing up to be able to see King Charles, to be able to see William and Kate. And, you know, it does speak to their popularity, but then we have had so many polls, you know, here in the UK that have talked about the popularity of the royals, that amongst the 18 to 24-year-old bracket, for instance, 32% of those people questioned said that they would like an elected head of state. And actually, I think more importantly, 78% of those 18 to 24-year-olds said that they just didn't care, that they were ambivalent to the monarchy. And actually, I think that's what's really going to be a death knell for the royal family. People just not caring about them, because the royal family exists for and because of the people. Their popularity will continue as long as people keep caring about what they do, what they post on social media, which charities they are visiting. Without that, then it seems that what is the point of them?
Yeah, and you can also see that this is very much a pared down royal family. You know, fewer people out, fewer people from the extended family invited. I mean, the person that everyone will be looking out for is Prince Harry, and of course his wife Meghan is not coming.
Yes, of course, you're absolutely right. You know, this is demonstrating a slimmed down monarchy, as you will. There will only be 15 working royals, as it were, on the balcony. And of course, like you said, Prince Harry is said to be coming for the coronation, but Meghan Markle, his wife, and his two children are staying at home. Now, it is Archie's 4th birthday tomorrow. This is also about division of parenting. Meghan is staying behind to make sure the birthday celebrations go smoothly, and Prince Harry is here to support his father. But I think there's also an element of Meghan Markle just perhaps not wanting to participate in the tearing strips of her that will happen by certain members of the British media, talking about what she wears or what she does not wear, how she steps out of a car or does not step out of a car. You know, she's under so much scrutiny that I think she probably thought, you know what, I'm going to just remove myself from that and let Prince Harry get on with his duty. You know, he was always going to be here. He is still 5th in line to the throne, and of course he is a Councillor of State, so it's his duty to be here. He feels that it's his duty to be here, and therefore he will be.
Afua, fascinating talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the programme.
Thank you.
And as we said, a lot of security on the streets of London. We will be bringing you more live pictures in a moment, but let's just go to the rest of the day's news now. And Russia's Wagner mercenary group has posted a video on social media of its leader berating Russia's defense minister. Just have a listen.
Это чьи-то отцы и чьи-то сыновья.
You don't have to understand the language to get a sense of his anger there. And the Wagner leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, was extremely irate as he shouted at the camera lens. The exact location of the video is unclear, but he's seen walking among the bodies of dead Wagner fighters in Ukraine. Amongst the profanities, Prigozhin condemns Russia for not sending the mercenary force enough ammunition. He also threatened that his forces will quit the bitterly contested Ukraine city of Bakhmut next week. Well, for more on this, we're joined by Elizabeth Braw, a resident fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, a US-based think tank. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining us here on the programme. I mean, where to begin? This is quite extraordinary. I mean, although those people who are Russia watchers will know that there's no love lost between the head of the Wagner and the Russian elite. But for him to put out a video like this, have dead Wagner fighters behind him and demand to know where the ammunition is.
It's extraordinary, and this is why most countries don't use mercenaries anymore, because you can you can pay them, but you can't buy loyalty, and you especially can't buy love. And Prigozhin is clearly upset at the moment that he's not getting enough ammunition to do the work that the Wagner Group has been sent to do in Bakhmut. And so instead of reporting it up the chain of command, as happens in normal countries, he takes to social media to complain, and especially complain about the commander of the overall war effort, and indeed of the armed forces, and also complain about the defense minister. It truly is extraordinary.
Yeah, and when we think about the Wagner group, Elizabeth, we think of a brutal force, and it sent chills down people's spines when they heard they were being deployed to Ukraine to sort of fight some of this war for the Russian army. So for this to now happen, for them to say, we're going to pull out from Bakhmut after months and months of bitter fighting, is also what's extraordinary.
It is, and as you say, when it was announced that the Wagner Group would be sent to Bakhmut and indeed to other parts of Ukraine, I think we all got worried, because we know that these are not troops that are instructed in the use of the Geneva Conventions, and so they just go about fighting without any respect for any sort of international agreement or indeed the humanity of their opponents. But they are also not very well trained, and they have used up a lot of ammunition, clearly, and that's why they haven't made a lot of progress. It is really extraordinary. They have this horseshoe formation around the city. The Ukrainians only have one little part that they control, and it was predicted for a long time that the Russians, represented by Wagner Group, would be able to close this horseshoe, but they haven't been able to. And now we are getting this development where they're saying, well, Prigozhin is saying, well, it's not worth it, we may just pull out. I don't think that will happen, but there is no love lost, and we can be sure there will be more bad blood between him and the defense minister and the commander of the armed forces.
What we've learned over the last year is that Russia certainly didn't prepare for a war of this length, that they would be going more than a year into this. And it seems like their strategy, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to break the will of the West and its support for Ukraine. But when you see something like this, Elizabeth, what is it telling you about where things are at for the Russian forces and certainly for the Wagner?
It tells me that you can be well equipped and you can be you can have numerical superiority, but none of that is as powerful as wanting to defend your own country. And I think this is what the Russians so disastrously got wrong when they decided to invade Ukraine. They didn't. They measured how many soldiers the Ukrainians had and how many weapons of different kinds, but they didn't measure Ukrainians' commitment to their own country, and they are committed to their own country. Whereas the Russians who are being sent to Ukraine, whether traditional ordinary soldiers or Wagner troops, they have no commitment to this war. They are just being sent there to do a job, and if it's not going well, they will lose faith in the whole effort, which is clearly what's happening with the Wagner Group. And the Wagner Group is different from traditional soldiers, because they can just say, well, we're done, it didn't work out, or we are not pleased about the conditions, so we're just going to pull out. Whereas in traditional armed forces, soldiers have to keep fighting until the government says, stop, we're done.
Indeed. Elizabeth, fascinating talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the programme. We're going to take you back to Buckingham Palace, and we can see preparations for the coronation. It is, of course, the eve of the coronation. And as you can see, global leaders have started to arrive, as well as foreign royals. Kings, queens from all over the world are making their way to Buckingham Palace. You can see some of the arrivals there for a reception with King Charles and the Queen Consort, and she'll be known as the Queen after tomorrow. But you can see that Rishi Sunak, the British Prime Minister, arriving there with his wife, and many global leaders, the Rwandan president there, Kagame, arriving, world leaders, foreign royals, heads of states, making their way to London, to Buckingham Palace, the King of Jordan there with Queen Rania. As you can see, that the Foreign Secretary of Britain as well arriving. Lots of cameras, lots of security. Earlier we were talking about the level of security, the seriousness and scale of the security operation in the capital this weekend, becoming much more visible. Because, of course, all of these royals, you can see the Emir of Qatar arriving as well, entering the palace. Royals from all over the world for this historic moment, the first coronation in 70 years, with all of those dignitaries for that reception ahead of the coronation. And King Charles and the Queen Consort Camilla have been attending final rehearsal preparations for tomorrow's coronation. They've been meeting well-wishers on the Mall as well, alongside the Prince and Princess of Wales, and really doing a number of things ahead of tomorrow. But you were looking at pictures there of all the dignitaries arriving at Buckingham Palace for a special reception, about 1,000 dignitaries inside the palace to meet with King Charles on the eve of the coronation. It's a beautiful spring evening here in London, about 6:30 in the evening. A bit of uncertain weather today. Sometimes it was raining, sometimes the sun would come out, but it's truly a beautiful day. And there was some worry about what the weather would be like tomorrow, but judging by these live pictures from outside Buckingham Palace, the sun is out. There is a lot of security. The scale of the security is truly unprecedented. And some of the security is visible, others are not. Earlier we saw on the roof of Buckingham Palace, police spotters. They could be seen with these high-powered binoculars, and also convoys with motorcycle outriders whisking the king and other members of the royal family between rehearsals and other events, as well as meeting with dignitaries. Earlier, King Charles was meeting with leaders from the Commonwealth nations. But right now, there's about 1,000 dignitaries arriving to Buckingham Palace to meet with King Charles. You can see these vehicles that could be Jill Biden, judging by the convoy and the vehicles. But we're seeing these sorts of vehicles across London making their way to Buckingham Palace and then arriving into the city ahead of the coronation. A lot of security. The Met Police have said they're using layered security approach. Some officers are on the streets and are visible. They're saying others are working covertly and watching the crowd. My colleague Robin Brown, who's currently outside Buckingham Palace, said that there are concerns about not just the protesters, they're expected, but it's the unexpected disruption that the security and police officers and the Met are incredibly worried about ahead of tomorrow's coronation. Let's go back again to the rest of the day's news. And Serbia is to embark on a push to disarm the country after 2 mass shootings within 48 hours. President of the country said no new gun permits will be issued and existing owners will face increased background checks. He condemned the latest attack as terrorism and said the suspect had neo-Nazi symbols on his clothing. It's believed a verbal fight may have contributed to the shooting spree. Well, joining me now is Liliana Smailovic, who's a journalist based in Belgrade. Thank you so much, Liliana, for joining us here on the program. I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it, given the gun laws in Serbia, given the fact that we don't often hear about this type of thing, and then you have 2 in the space of just a few days.
Yes, this is a country that's in the middle of a collective trauma. This one mass shooting happens in an elite school right around the corner from Main Street. There's a Hilton Hotel right there. The other mass shooting, also 8 victims in a sleepy suburb of Belgrade. These are things we thought we could take for granted. We could send kids to school and not worry about their safety, and we could be at night with our friends and families on our porches, talking, enjoying a balmy night. So this is a profound shock to our system. And the president has said that the country is under attack.
When he says that, what does he mean? I mean, obviously, we're seeing these two shootings in a matter of days, but is he saying that more people are using this as a tactic? I mean, when he says the country is under attack, what does he mean?
I think he means that everybody's sense of safety and security has been completely that our sense of safety is gone, and that we are, the government now is moving very quickly to try to restore a semblance of order and to reassure the population. The people want to be reassured that this will stop. And I think when he says the country is under attack and this is a terrorist act, it's difficult to understand. The second perpetrator is described as a person with pro-Nazi sympathies, but he is only 21 years old and he had 45,000 followers on his social media. So this is going to require a serious reckoning. Two mass murders with very young perpetrators, and something that we didn't see coming and do not understand. And this is the sense of shock, and this is where that sense of being under attack. We don't know what's coming. We don't know what we can take for granted anymore.
Liliana, thank you so much for joining us live from Belgrade.
Thank you.
Now in London, as I've been saying, excitement is building ahead of the coronation of King Charles tomorrow. It's been a day of rehearsals and diplomatic duties for the King. Earlier, he was joined by the Prince and Princess of Wales for a walkabout on the Mall, where he met well-wishers from all over the world. Thousands of people have come to London for the big day, and tens of millions are expected to watch the ceremony. Well, let's cross live to my colleague, Catty Kay. And Catty, it's so nice to see you in London, and we brought the weather out for you, and of course, for the King.
Yelda, thank you, because it's got a lot better than it was this morning when I was standing on a rooftop and it was absolutely bucketing down. But as you can see right now outside Westminster Abbey, it is perfect weather. Music really to my ears, and weather for great music. And luckily I'm joined here by somebody who can tell us about a lovely enterprise that's been taking place around the world. Mark Strachan, who is the founder of the Choir of the Earth.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. I mean, what a fantastic evening, right? How lucky are we?
The sun, London looks glorious in the sun.
So tell us about the project, the Choir of the Earth.
Well, Choir of the Earth is an online digital choir with members from over 53 countries.
So you founded during COVID?
I did, yes, that's right. All over the world, and we come together, although we're not together, but we come together online to sing. A number of our members wanted to be here for this occasion, but for various personal reasons they couldn't. So we thought, well, why don't we invite them by music to come? So we invited all of them and anybody, singers, non-singers from all over the world, to join us and sing on their mobile phones, to email that to us. We put it together in the studio, combining all the voices, and we are playing it back to everybody tonight at 7 o'clock.
I know it's going to debut at 7 o'clock, and I think we have a little clip of it.
You do.
A little special clip. But wait a second. First of all, before we hear this wonderful clip, the world premiere of the Choir of the Earth, before it's unembargoed.
Yes.
Tell us about what you chose and why you chose this particular. You chose Hallelujah.
We did.
Why did you choose that?
We chose Hallelujah because it's a tune that most people know. Hallelujah. I mean, most people know that tune. It's also from Messiah. And the words, "May the King reign forever and ever," are very apt. It wouldn't have been apt for the Queen in the 1950s because, of course, it's the King rather than the Queen. But Hallelujah is well known. It features the King. It's such a lovely, joyful sing.
Okay, Mark, stay there, because I think if we're lucky, we can ask the gallery now to play that little clip. I think we've got it. So can we play that little clip now for everybody? It's absolutely fantastic. I'm just listening in my earpiece there, and I admit I've got a little bit of a crackly earpiece, but I could hear it very well. Does this sound like it's on mobile phones? Or
It
what?
just
Tell me about
sounds-
the quality.
I mean, it's amazing. I am constantly amazed how when people sing into a mobile phone and email that to us, when they're all combined, they sound fantastic. And that Hallelujah is just remarkable. And it's a very emotional experience for all the people that take part. And those who cannot be here are here through the music, and it's just wonderful.
I'm just wondering, is that one of the biggest choirs in the world? I mean, I'm just wondering if you might have a world record there.
We haven't checked it, but we've got thousands of people on that recording from all over the world, and they're here with us now.
So what happens at 7 o'clock in about 20 minutes' time? What happens?
Okay, well, at choiroftheearth.com, Ben England, our wonderful music director, is previewing that to the assembled choir and others, and it will be played for the first time. So they will hear themselves singing it for the first time.
So all of our viewers can also find it where? Where can they find it? Let's promote it. Go on.
www.choiroftheearth.com, and then click on the word Coronation, and then there's a link to get through. It's 7 o'clock tonight, Friday, the 5th of May.
And do you have their faces as well? It's just the voices?
No, it's just the voices, because sending video can be quite time-consuming for people.
Right.
So it's just the audio.
And you really have people who have sent in singing from all over the world.
Thailand, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America, France, I mean, it goes on. Over 53 countries, and we get together through the joy of music. It's wonderful.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much,
Pleasure.
Mark, for joining
Thank
me.
you.
What a great thing to have done, and what a great thing that technology has allowed us to do. This was a choir, the Choir of the Earth, founded during COVID, when everyone was, of course, lonely at home, couldn't find other people to sing with. Choirs were a very difficult thing, but it's continued, and we're going to have a taste of it for the coronation with that recording of Hallelujah. And you heard it here first on the BBC.
Catty, thank you so much. And as Catty mentioned, she actually mentioned COVID there. Well, the World Health Organization says COVID-19 is no longer a global health emergency after 3 years of lives and economies turned upside down and millions of deaths. The WHO's head, Mr. Tedros, made this announcement. Have a listen.
Yesterday, the emergency committee met for the 15th time and recommended to me that I declare an end to the public health emergency of international concern. I have accepted that advice. It's therefore with great hope that I declare COVID-19 over as a global health emergency.
Well, let's speak now to Eric Feigl-Deng, an epidemiologist who's spoken to us many times here on BBC World News. Eric, I mean, the head of the WHO there, Dr. Tedros, saying at least 7 million people have died, but actually the true figure could be much more.
Yeah, thanks for having me. The true figure, WHO's own report actually says the excess mortality is likely 20 million or higher. And I think that's the honest truth in terms of, because many cases weren't confirmed. Look, COVID right now, regardless of what they say about lifting the global health emergency, they at the same time today said that there are still outbreaks in many parts of the world, Middle East, South, Africa, and that the actual true emergency, could still reemerge. And many parts of the world could still see surges later on this year.
So do you
as
think this, do you think this sort of, lowering down the threat of it is the right move? Because essentially countries may put their guard down.
Yeah, I think this is a worry. I feel like they should have used a better system than emergency versus non-emergency. Because if anything, we're still honestly in code deep orange, light red. Because that's honestly what the situation is. It's just that, by lowering it, they feel that, they can contain it for now. And the cases and deaths are much lower now. But again, we've seen waves. The deaths are probably on par with, April and May 2021. And I remember, many people say, well, the pandemic was over back then. And it clearly came back and surged again. So I really feel we don't eat crow from this.
Yeah, and essentially, I mean, are we getting the right stats and figures from countries like China, for example, even India, Russia? Do we know the extent of it in these places still?
Yeah, we don't do testing, and those countries don't do reporting. So that together makes a world of hurts and the worst of both worlds. We know that probably well over 1 million, likely 2 million people died in China in the past wave in the last few months. but nobody's talking about it. And many of these other countries like Russia forget about reliable data from Russia on anything these days. And even the United States, we're not doing enough testing or reporting. You know, the U.S. even has said we're going to stop requiring hospital-acquired infections. And this is all while hospital-acquired COVID infections have tripled or quadrupled in the last month or two. And you know, it's still definitely ongoing. And the moment we lose the tools, such as if Paxlovid drug stops working, and that's not even available in the UK, by the way, Paxlovid, it's very difficult to find in the UK. And when there's a surge, we'll be in the deep, deep trouble.
Yeah, and I actually heard Dr. Deng, an epidemiologist, say in most cases, pandemics truly end when the next pandemic begins. Do you think there's been enough of a sort of pause and reflection on what the world has just gone through and how to prepare for the next one?
Yeah, the world has not fully prepared. We have not learned our lessons about airborne transmission. Airborne transmission is still not, recognized with mitigations, with HEPA filters, indoor UV, as we call it, Davos standard indoor air quality, which, the gatherers and world leaders at Davos had, but many other places in the world simply don't install into their safety protocols. We have not learned those lessons. And, we have not prepared with improving hospital-acquired infections are at an all-time record high in numerous countries. We have not learned these lessons from COVID yet. And that's why we're doomed to repeat it once there's another surge, another variant.
And I suppose the question is then, what needs to happen to ensure that they do start thinking about that and preparing so that the world is not caught by surprise again?
Well, this is the thing. Like, obviously, we don't want lockdowns. And if we don't want those kind of things, we need to have better tracing. We need better testing and surveillance, wastewater surveillance. We need hospital to have masks for doctors and nurses in hospitals, and especially given the situation of people coming in and getting infected and then going home. Look, I think we need the indoor air ventilation and disinfection. The indoor air is so key. It's even more important than masks because it is agnostic of human behavior and compliance. And vaccines, obviously, when the next pandemic hits, we need to spur development. But the ventilation air disinfection is not just for COVID, it's for the flu, it's for many other respiratory viruses that we'll encounter. And any pandemic is going to be a respiratory virus for the most part. And if we don't have these indoor air quality standards installed in all our countries, indoor buildings, schools, workplaces, we're doomed to repeat these next time there's another outbreak.
Dr. Deng, thank you so much again for joining us here on the program.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Let's go to Afghanistan now, where there are reports that two United Nations organizations have bowed to Taliban pressure for male-only workers. Earlier this year, the Taliban banned women from working for the UN. Initially, the aid organizations came together and refused to restrict women, sending all Afghan staff home. Well, we've reached out to the UN and have been told there is a press statement to be issued in the next few hours. As soon as that comes in, we will be bringing that to you. So there is a bit of uncertainty. Let's discuss now with Mahbouba Siraj, an Afghan women's rights activist. Mahbouba John, thank you so much for joining us again on the program. And there is so much uncertainty around what the UN is doing, what the Taliban is saying and doing, and frankly, millions of Afghans stuck in between, not sure if they're going to get aid or not.
Absolutely. And this is right now, honestly, is the problem of the world. I mean, they're making all of this big mess. I mean, they made it from the beginning, and now they're kind of continuing doing that by not knowing what they're supposed to be doing. For God's sakes, they're helping a country that is in dire need of help, humanitarian assistance. Do that. This all of this thing about women and men and women and all of that is just a distraction for everybody not to know what else to do. This is not right. I thought United Nations had their meeting because they were going to talk about this. The UN has to go on doing their job, and they have to find a way. Like we all have found a way to work, under the radar, work in a way that we can get the help to the people.
They are, between a rock and a hard place, aren't they? Because on the one hand, they have their values and their principles, and they don't want the Taliban to tell them women cannot work, Afghan women cannot work for aid agencies. On the other hand, they still need to provide the aid, as you say, because of the humanitarian crisis.
That's right. That's right. So at this point, it's not important when the Taliban, whether the Taliban tells them do work or don't do work. Right now, is the humanitarian aid is important. This is what I'm trying to say to the world. Every situation in the world, you really need to study it and look at it for what it is, not for what you want it to be or what it used to be or what it used to be called. Look at it for what it is and what you can do at any given moment.
So what should they do? What should they do? Because there is some confusion about whether the UN is allowing men to work and not women to work, and that's caused anger and outrage in some circles.
It really has, and it should, because that's not what it's supposed to be. Find a way to make it work with women, and there is a way to make it work with women. They don't have to make such a big fanfare, and trying to announce it to the whole world. This is from lack of wanting to help the women of Afghanistan. I swear to you, it's nothing else but that. If you want to help the women of Afghanistan, you can help the women of Afghanistan. But doing it, with a certain finesse, with a certain how shall I say, diplomacy.
Are you saying that they're appeasing the Taliban too much?
Well, no, they're not. I don't know what they're doing. I really don't think they know what they're doing. They're just going for whichever way. I don't know, because the Taliban are very different in different provinces of Afghanistan too. Don't forget that. In some provinces, things are going really right. And the NGOs that they are working, they do have women working. We just schedule them differently. We don't want to bring a whole lot of women at the same time, at the same place all the time. We can do it, in groups and scheduling properly. If there is a will to help the women, if it's no will to help the women, then you can just give in, to any one of these things. It's not the rule. Well, the Taliban don't want. Well, the world cannot decide. Well, we are not going to get any money. Yeah, of course you're not. Because if this is the way you work, this is what happens. Right now, we are in need of help. So make it happen, please. Yeah. This is what the way I look at it. Make it happen, whichever way you can, because that's important. It's the question of lives of people. It's the question of survival. It's the question of of continuity of Afghanistan, for God's sakes.
Mahbouba John, always good to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, dear. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, a prominent Nigerian senator has been sentenced to 9.5 years in prison after he was found guilty of trafficking a man to Britain to harvest one of his kidneys. Ike Ekwere Madu's wife, Beatrice, was given a 4.5-year sentence. The judge also handed down a 10-year jail term to a medic who helped them. The victim, a 21-year-old trader from Lagos, was offered $8,000 and was promised a better life in Britain, but only realised what was going on when he met doctors in hospital. The couple had planned to give the organ to their daughter, who has a kidney disease. Well, let's discuss this further with Aniola Akikuotu in Abuja, Nigeria. He's the chief correspondent at the Africa Report. Thank you so much for joining us here on the programme. This truly is quite an unbelievable story. How did it actually get uncovered?
Well, the young man had traveled with them, and he said he didn't know that his organs were going to be harvested. And so when they got to the hospital, the doctor began to suspect that there was some shady business going on. And then he declared a mismatch. So the young man just went off for a few days and then reported to a police station. And of course, we know what happened next. The couple were arrested and then they were arraigned in court.
Of course, kidney harvesting is a problem, a global problem, but certainly it happens a lot in Nigeria.
Oh, it's very common here in this part. And number one, the number one issue is that we don't really have strict laws on organ trafficking. Section 53 of the National Health Act just talks about it says that no one should pay for an organ or tissue donation. That's all. And anyone who's found culpable is liable to 1 year in prison or about a fine of about $2,400 thereabout. So you have this high rate of organ trafficking going on in Nigeria, and authorities usually focus more on child trafficking rather than organ trafficking. So, you see a lot of arrests and prosecution for child trafficking, but when it comes to organ trafficking, they're not that so Johnny on the spot.
Yeah, it's quite an extraordinary story and situation there. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program.
Thank you.
Now, as we've been reporting here on BBC News, it is the eve of the coronation and excitement is well and truly building. Let's just show you some images of the heads of states arriving at Buckingham Palace. King Charles and Camilla, the Queen Consort, have been greeting international dignitaries at Buckingham Palace who have been arriving. And as you can see, Prince Albert is there with his wife and various other dignitaries who have been arriving. The Brazilian president there arriving as well to Buckingham Palace. So lots of international guests, the royal family of Spain, royal dignitaries from all over the world, but the King and Queen of Spain arriving there as well. And the Malaysian Prime Minister, that last shot there. And we're going to leave you with these images of Buckingham Palace. The sun is out. It's a beautiful spring evening on the eve of the coronation, and we will continue our coverage.